Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and my Italian Grand Prix review. And guys, what a race that was not. Oh my God, that was boring. Out front more than anything. There was some good scrapping in the midfield between Williams, Force India. Red Bull gave us something to talk about as well. But we'll start, guys, as we always do, with a look at the full race result. It was Lewis Hamilton leading home a comfortable Mercedes 1-2. That was understatement of the year, that comfortable. Wow, unbelievable. He pretty much... Do you know what, guys? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I don't usually do this. I'm going to cover the top three in this bit very, very quickly because there isn't really a lot to say, which is not a knock at Hamilton. It's not a knock at Mercedes. There's just not really a lot to say. Lewis Hamilton, he led, apart from a lap during his pit stops, he led from start to finish, completely unchallenged by his teammate. He finished 4.4 seconds behind. There was a moment towards the end of the race where he complained about a loss of power, but never really came to anything. And the fact they turned the engine down after about a third of the race says it all, guys. It really does. Like I say, Bottas in second place. Sebastian Vettel, a good recovery on paper to finish in third place, but look at that, guys. Seriously, 36 seconds off the lead. That is insane. What the hell has happened to Ferrari this week on home soil? Is it the pressure? Have Mercedes got a big upgrade? Who knows? It just, I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. He never really challenged. And frankly, guys, it was the kind of Grand Prix where I think the podium was pretty much decided, including the order, by around lap 14, 15, maybe 16 at best. It really was proper boring up front. Unless you're a Lewis Hamilton fan, of course. Usually if your favourite driver is leading comfortably, it's quite a nice race. But if you like to watch a bit of Grand Prix racing and you're a bit of a neutral, then yeah, it's not a thriller. So I'm hoping for better in Singapore. We should get better in Singapore, but that is basically your top three, guys. Not really anything else I can say about them other than, as we'll talk about properly later, Lewis Hamilton has gone to the top of the Drivers' Championship, of course. Behind that, though, things did sort of happen. Daniel Ricciardo, he recovered brilliantly to fourth place. A fantastic contra strategy by Red Bull, basically the harder compound early on, the softer one towards the end of the race. I think he went like nearly 40 laps on the harder compound tyre, so a great drive from him. He was rightly awarded driver of the day, which we'll see on the next sheet as well. Kimi Raikkonen fifth. He kind of never really went anywhere in the end. Esteban Ocon, Lance Stroll, I think they were pretty happy with that. Felipe Massa in 8th. Sergio Perez 9th. Max Verstappen in 10th. And Kevin Magnussen is finishing the sheet off there in 11th place and a lap down, as was Max Verstappen. For the second race in a row, Daniel Kvyat, he wins page 2, if you like. He is top of that in 12th place. Nico Hulkenberg 13th. Sainz 14th. Grosjean 15th. Of course, the Sauber bring up the rear with Pascal Wehrlein 2 laps down. A double retirement again for McLaren. It's just not getting any better. Is expecting some news on their engine next week, though. We'll come to that a little bit later on. Ericsson and Palmer also retiring, as I said. Driver of the day goes to Daniel Ricciardo for P4, and fastest lap also to the Aussie for a 1:23.361. So we're going to leave the top three because there's not really anything to say on that, and we're going to go straight on to Daniel Ricciardo. Obviously, after qualifying, it was pretty depressing for them. They looked good on pace. I think he was third. They looked like they were good. Not third at all. That was Lance Stroll, but they were right up there with the Red Bulls fighting the Mercedes in qualifying. Obviously, the changeable conditions helped Red Bull out, but obviously then the wonderful grid penalties, which are totally managing to somehow destroy Formula One single-handedly. Yeah, he ended up further down the grid, but a fantastic comeback drive. Like I say, he had a contra strategy. They went with the soft tyre early on, ran that for like ever, and then put the super softs on and managed to take that to the end. And very nearly a couple more laps and he'd have been right on Sebastian Vettel. So Vettel just has not had a good day at all. And Ricciardo, without those penalties, for me, 100% would have been on the podium. It would have been pure misery for Ferrari. But again, Daniel Ricciardo, he just does this so well. Both the Red Bull boys are so good at coming through the field. And that's probably one of the biggest talking points is, you know, Red Bull and their ability to come back in Monza, despite the fact it's not a power circuit. So Max Verstappen, he obviously got penalties as well. He actually had a puncture early on in the race as well after contact with Felipe Massa. No penalty given, rightly so, by the FIA. That was definitely a racing incident. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. He got a puncture, dropped right to the back of the field, but he managed to bounce back to 10th place, which is pretty decent for him, especially when you consider recent issues with the car. At least he's got to the end of this race. That hopefully puts an end to those successive retirements and maybe just puts that to the back of his mind. He can start to focus now on the rest of the season. It's only a point, but it is a point nevertheless. Bit of controversy, if you like, between Kevin Magnussen and Max Verstappen, if you can really call it that. The stewards took no further action on it. I completely agree with that decision. Max Verstappen, for me, he was ahead, and you can quite clearly see it on the replays. It's not really in that picture there, but you can see it in the replays. He's ahead before he moves across to Magnussen. It's his corner. It's his position. Magnussen should have backed out of it. He didn't. There's contact. He starts kicking off on the radio. But Max Verstappen, great recovery for 10th place. No penalties. Absolutely rightly so. Really, other than the Red Bulls coming through the field, the only proper scrapping going on that really meant anything, I guess, was between the Force Indias and the Williams. But even that was a little bit, I don't know, guys. It didn't really, not a lot of overtaking, a lot of following each other, but it gave us a little bit of attention at least, which is kind of what we're looking for if we can't get the overtaking. Of course, Lance Stroll started second, Esteban Ocon in third. I genuinely think that is probably the best they could have got out of this weekend. Lance Stroll probably disappointed that he didn't stay ahead of Esteban Ocon early on, but I think he got kind of blocked off a little bit at the start by Lewis Hamilton, which, you know, people probably criticise Lewis for that move. How many drivers have we seen? Michael Schumacher, Ayrton Senna, Alain Prost, so many drivers in Formula 1 will make that chop early on to protect their position. It's just a move that happens in Formula 1. Stroll had to lift off. That allowed Esteban Ocon down the outside into turn 1, and he kind of stayed ahead of him for the race. A few swaps of positions during pit stops, a little bit of close overtaking. Massa and Stroll on the last lap. Jesus, did they get close? Williams were probably sweating on that one. Side by side at one point on the last lap, but they managed to stay where they were and keep the points. Big points for Williams. The only problem for them is it was also big points for Force India, but that should just about see Williams stay in 5th place in the Constructors for the rest of the season. They could challenge Force India, but I think that car, that Force India, that Pink Panther, is just a little bit too good for Williams this year. On the subject of overtaking, we're going to flip back to Daniel Ricciardo on what was by far move of the day. One, because it was an epic move and absolutely fantastic, and two, because not really a lot else happened in terms of overtaking. His move on Raikkonen, he's so good on the brakes, Daniel Ricciardo. He used it in Hungary so often down his turn 1, just so late on the brakes, down the inside of people, and he did it to Kimi Raikkonen at Monza in the first chicane. You just can't want any more than that, can you, for Daniel Ricciardo? He comes in, you're looking at the position, you've got Crofty on commentary, obviously going, oh, is he going to get him? And you go, no, he's like a second behind, shut up. He's like 3 or 4 car lengths back, he's never going to do that, Crofty. And he did it. He absolutely did it. Caught the commentary off guard and also caught me off guard. Absolutely stunning move from Ricciardo. Locked his wheel, but still managed to get it done completely cleanly. Martin Brundle summed it up beautifully in commentary. Said it's the kind of move you can only make on an experienced driver. He couldn't have done that to Lance Stroll or Esteban Ocon. That would have been a collision for sure. But Raikkonen knew he was coming. Great move from Ricciardo, and that kind of just set him up nicely for P4 and so nearly caught Vettel. But what a move that was. Absolutely fantastic. What else can we cover, guys? I think we're going to have to maybe have a word on Fernando Alonso. Yet another race of whinging and moaning over team radio, but incredibly, not about Honda. He's actually given them a break this weekend. This time it was Jolyon Palmer. Palmer made a move down the around the outside of Alonso, went in too deep, ended up cutting the corner, keeping the position. Absolutely correct decision from the steward. He got a 5-second time penalty. Fernando Alonso kicked up a massive stink. 5 seconds, not enough. Jolyon Palmer ended up retiring in the end, and Fernando Alonso, I believe on team radio, right, can we get this right? He said, "Where is Palmer?" The team responded with, "He's retired." Fernando Alonso comes back with one word: karma. That is the kind of mood Fernando Alonso is in at the moment at McLaren. Hopefully, within the next 7 days, his mood will be improved quite a bit with an announcement due next week on McLaren's engine decision. Looks as though it will be Renault. Could stay with Honda, but it all comes down to what Toro Rosso decides to do, but expect an announcement within the next few days from McLaren on that. But Alonso, he ended up retiring with mechanical issues. Stoffel Van Dorn also, he lost power despite a power unit change. Just pure misery for McLaren as ever. So they were both out. Marcus Ericsson, he had to retire late on. I don't know if it was a mechanical issue, to be honest. I would assume there was, but not a lot was said over team radio. I've not found a lot on it either. It'll be that, or they wanted to pit him and retire him so they could put a new gearbox in without penalty. And Jolyon Palmer also retired with reliability issues. And to be honest, guys, that's pretty much it. I can't really say a lot else about the race, which is frustrating because we had a pretty long wait during the summer break before we want to come back. We got an okay-ish race in Spa, and then we got a proper snooze fest in Monza. It is disappointing, but don't forget, guys, we are going to get this throughout any F1 season. We'll get epic classics like Baku, and then we'll get boring snooze fest like Monza. That is sport. It's not just motorsport. It's not just Formula 1. It is football, all sorts. We get these. Very quickly, though, a word on Saturday, and of course, as well, the grid penalty system. I am going to do a separate video, guys, because this is going to need a big, big rant, because I'm furious, as so many people are, about what happened on Saturday. It's beyond a joke. It needs to be sorted. The penalty system needs to either be scrapped, or there needs to be another way, maybe deduction of constructors' points, a percentage of prize money. I don't know. Something has to be done, because it's costing us great races. You know, all the ingredients were there today for a belting race, people coming through the field. We got that with Max Verstappen. We got that with Daniel Ricciardo. Absolutely. But guys, what could they have achieved? Could they have challenged the Mercs? Probably not. But, you know, it's a question we'll never actually know the answer to. So we need these guys at the front of the field. It needs to be the teams that take the penalties for mechanical problems. And also they need to be sorting out what's going to happen with qualifying in future, because at the end of the day, if it rains and they're not going to go out, you're taking track time away from the fans that have paid an absolute flipping fortune to get in, and it's not fair, and it needs to be addressed, and it's awful watching it on TV. So imagine being sat in the teeming rain having to put up with that. Obviously, safety is paramount, but let's not forget, guys, we had years ago drivers going out in far worse conditions, in far more dangerous cars, racing and getting on with it. So I know the drivers were keen to get racing, absolutely, and it was pretty much the FIA and the stewards' decisions not to go racing, but something needs needs to be sorted because it is simply not fair. And obviously there's a question as, you know, if we're not going to go out in the wet conditions, why bother taking the wet tyre? So there you go. But anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. That will have to be for another video because I could go on forever about that. And I think I need to calm down before I come in just effing and blinding, quite frankly. It's one of those topics that really gets my back up. But before I wrap up, guys, let's take a quick look at the championship tables. Lewis Hamilton obviously now top of the Drivers' Championship. Is that the first time this season he's got there? I think it might be, you know, 3 points clear of Sebastian Vettel, going to Singapore, of course, which should be a track for Ferrari. Bottas stays third, Ricciardo fourth, Raikkonen in fifth. Max Verstappen, he got a point. Well, hey, he's still so far off, though. Not his fault. As we know, the Force Indias there getting closer. That's what Force India were like. A nice little scrap between those two in the championship. Sainz and Hulkenberg unchanged. In the Constructors, Mercedes stretched their lead over Ferrari. That is looking like a one-horse race at the moment, isn't it? I'm sure Ferrari will try and come back very, very soon. Red Bull solidify third with Force India pretty much staying now in fourth place. I can't see Williams catching them. That is a great scrap, though. Yet again, Force India versus Williams. Williams should be okay from Toro Rosso as well, but you just never know what those guys are going to pull out the hat, especially with Carlos Sainz. He's a proper decent driver, and he really is. Haas, they'll be happy. Very good season for them on 35 points, but they are being caught by Renault. Not today, but over the course of the season, there's just 1 point in that. McLaren and Sauber. Oh, it's so sad to see McLaren down there. It really is. It's so depressing. But Sauber 5 points, McLaren 11. No change there, and probably no change for a while for those two. That is it for what was a pretty boring Italian Grand Prix, to be honest, guys. I'll be back with F1 2017 Career Mode tomorrow, part 5. That will be going up tomorrow, and we'll get a couple more of those smashed out. Obviously, this week, we're expecting an announcement from McLaren on what engine they'll be using next year, and possibly also on Fernando Alonso's future as well. So as soon as I see that break, I'll get in here and I will start recording a video on that to let you guys know what is going on, give you my opinions on that. But as ever, guys, thank you so much for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.